Welcome to day 3. You have survived. You are hardcore Appian users and implementers. Thank you so much for joining this conference, Delivering an Effective BPM Program. This panel today has 4 great BPM leaders in our industry who are going to answer some questions, give you insights into how they've made their BPM program successful. My name is Bill Geffert, Senior Vice President with Vuram Incorporated, and I'm happy to be the moderator here today. And we're going to start by, let's see, we have a clicker. One moment. I'm going to go through a quick agenda. What can I learn today? So day 3, you made it. You've heard a lot. What can you learn here? I'm going to cover that briefly. We're going to let the panelists introduce themselves. You'll know who they are and where they're from. And then we're going to ask 8 key questions and get insights from the panelists on how they've made their BPM program successful. So what can I learn today? Gain insights from those leaders who have actually implemented Appian in real-world circumstances, who have gone through everything that it takes to make a program successful in their organizations. Hear firsthand details about how they did it, what made their implementations unique and what made them successful. And then hopefully take away some of the techniques that they used and be able to learn from them and make your own program implementation faster, more effective, and better for your customers. So with that, I'm going to start by asking for introductions. We'll begin with Amy Green. Amy is with Syniverse Incorporated. I'm going to ask her to introduce herself, give a little bit of her background, what Syniverse does, describe a little bit of how long she's been working with Appian, how much has been implemented, and whether it's on cloud or on-premise or in cloud. Amy?
Hello. I'm Amy Green with Syniverse Technologies. I own the BPM application space as well as all of our enterprise technology and back office corporate type applications. We've been working with Appian for just over a year, and that whole time we've been working with the Vuram team. We have 8 processes implemented with 3 additional processes currently in flight. 1 is getting ready to deploy in the next 2 weeks. And we are a SaaS customer.
Okay, and to Amy's left is Charles Falk of Vontobel USA. Charles?
Sure. My name is Charles Falk. I'm Chief Operating Officer at Vontobel Asset Management. We're a small asset manager with about 67 people. I implemented Appian about 4 years ago when we successfully got SSAE 16 controlled certification. That was sort of the kickoff for bringing Appian in-house, and then we developed, now we're up to about 15 different applications, most of which Vuram has helped us develop.
And to Amy's right is Bud Ketterall of Scripps Networks.
Hey, my name is Bud Ketterall. I'm the VP of Project Management, and I own the BPM team at Scripps Networks. Most people don't know what Scripps Networks is. It's a media company. You're probably familiar with our brands. We own HGTV, Food Network, Travel Channel, DIY. We've been on Appian about 4 years now. We have probably close to 20 applications, I would think. We're in the process of expanding that to an enterprise license actually this week. That's the big news for us. I'm in the digital group itself, so we deal with the websites and the applications for the mobile apps for Scripps Networks. Enterprise has got many other applications lined up for Scripps as well, so we're excited about that. We're going from like 350 seats to 2,500 seats this week, and we are also in the cloud. And I guess that's it.
Okay, and at the end of our stage is John Kimmel of Triad Retail Media.
Good afternoon. John Kimmel. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Triad Retail Media based in Tampa, Florida. For those that don't know what Triad does, we're one of the world's largest digital ad agencies in the world. A lot of those ads that pop up on the screens and things like that on Walmart and eBay, those are all our customers, and we develop all the advertising, the content for those sites. We are coming up on about a year, so we made our selection of Appian just after this conference last year. So we're coming up roughly on that 1 year time frame. We're still in some of the early stages, so I think we'll probably cover some of that as we go through there, but probably 3 or 4 main processes, but big processes built, and our entire application is in the cloud. Common theme, I think we're also very happy to be a Vuram customer up here as well.
This was not solicited in feedback. They're allowed to say whatever they want.
Make the questions easy.
All right, so those are our panelists, definitely experienced Appian professionals up on the stage here today. So we're going to go through some questions now, and the first question is with respect to ownership. A lot of people bringing Appian into their organizations for the first time sometimes have a difficult fit of understanding, where does sponsorship come from? Where is ownership within the organization? Is it business owned? Is it IT owned? So we're going to find out from our panelists what is actually happening within their organizations. So I'm going to start with John again and just ask, who owns Appian within your organization? And when you started with it, are you getting the same use when you initiated now than what you thought you were going to do with it?
So the ownership piece for us has been a bit of a challenge. We started out, this was really, BPM for us was a very focused effort driven by IT. We've got many core platforms that are fairly robust and fairly embedded within our organization. And myself and some other members of the IT team really saw that we were lacking kind of that layer above kind of the assembly line process, I'll call it. So BPM started out as an IT ownership. I owned it within the company. We had some early successes. We had some early struggles with that ownership, bringing the business together. About 6 months ago, we made a change within the organization. Starting to build kind of our first product organization. So now BPM for us at Triad is really owned by that product team. And it's been very successful having kind of the middleman that puts the boxing gloves on in the ring, right? You got a referee in there, and so the process team that's part of that product team helps with requirements gathering, helps with making sure that we're changing processes. We're not just taking tasks and making them automated. So there's a big process change that's happened for us. IT still owns the development portion, and then we collaborate between the product team and IT on some of the training and the rollout. So we've made some changes in the last year, organizationally and process-wise.
Okay. Bud, you mentioned an enterprise license now at Scripps. Is that changing the nature of the way in which Appian is perceived?
It is, actually. We started out very small. We did proof of concept with 100 seats with a year contract. We basically wanted to ensure that this was going to work for us. We came into Appian with certain processes that we wanted to do the proof of concept with. We were able to do that after the first year, again, in our digital organization. We went from there to, a 3-year contract that we, extended I wouldn't call it a proof of concept at that point, but we ended up going from 100 seats to 350 seats. Most of our work is operational. It's not really geared towards digital content. It's things like work prioritization, project management related processes. We actually built our own time tracking system, the vendor management system, that sort of thing. So everything was tied to our project work that we did for digital, ROI, having a good grasp of what's going on with individual projects within digital. Since then, we've engaged with enterprise, during those 4 years, and basically enterprise has said, hey, this is a pretty good tool. We have other solutions that we may, need Appian for, and so there's sort of this, transition now to enterprise. And how that affects us, we're not quite sure at the moment. It's going to be a collaborative effort since we're like the experts in the organization in Appian. And, for us to get to an enterprise license, it's a huge plus in our, in our company. I really think that there's a lot of opportunity to solve a lot of problems that have been ongoing for for a long period of time, and it's a great opportunity for us to move forward. So it's evolved. So. Okay,
excellent. So Amy, you probably have the largest number of implemented processes of anyone up on the stage. What's the ownership structure for Appian look like at Syniverse?
Syniverse has the technology organization at the center. I sit inside of the technology organization. It was driven out of our CTO and CIO space. The initial request was, how's the business running? We know where the systems aren't running well, but we don't know what processes aren't running well and what's the cause of us not hitting revenue faster. Or how do we ensure that our implementations are running smoothly and things aren't getting lost in an email?
Is that the way the implementation started? Was it identifying those factors that were leading to key performance indicators?
It was. However, when we selected our first process, we didn't want to have the elephant to bite and figure out how to eat it. So we took smaller processes to prove out that Appian was really going to work for us. And now we're actually in the midst of embarking on the bigger processes around contract to cash.
Excellent. And Charles, at Vontobel, smaller organization, what's the Appian ownership look like?
It's probably a little bit different than it is for the three of you. We don't actually have an IT organization, I would say. So ownership of Appian with us has always been with the business unit or with the individual that previously was driving a process or is in charge of managing a process. I mentioned before it started with the control certification, and that's how that was probably a little bit too big a bite to take as the initial implementation. But we did that successfully. It worked, and now I think by having sort of fluid lines between departments, people communicating at a small shop like we are, we've been able to build on that and roll out additional applications that are quite targeted and still owned predominantly by the business.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to move on. So from ownership of Appian, the next logical question is management buy-in. So if you've got ownership within the organization, how do you generate that interest to get management buy-in so that you have support to go forward with your program? So we'll start with Amy. Amy, is there management buy-in for the use of Appian in the organization? And because you in particular have a focus on measuring certain KPIs, how do you demonstrate that ROI for Appian when it comes to that KPI link?
So we do have the management buy-in. I mean, they were the ones that suggested that we go forward with implementing a BPM solution to begin with. That's been the easy part. The demonstration of ROI, we've actually gone about a little differently. We had paper processes and swivel chair activity where people were entering information into 2 different systems back to back. And so our savings have been heavily on productivity. We went about it a little differently also because we said we could go back and measure all these manual processes and that'll take us X amount of time, or we can start implementing the new stuff and make it work for the organization a little bit more quickly. So we took the latter, and the impact has been strong enough that we have a backlog that continues to grow every day.
Excellent. So John, I know at Triad there have been ROI is a big measure and was one of the driving factors for you bringing Appian into the organization. Can you talk a little bit about that management support you have and ROI measures?
So I think I would hope everybody in the room has management support or are really facing a really tough uphill battle. So yes, we have it. The second piece around ROI has really been a struggle. For those of us that are very mathematically inclined, we haven't figured that out yet. What we have done though is we've done things like informal surveys. We've showcased the application across many of the teams in our organization. And I think we finally got to a point now where the business has really bought in. And I also think that the ROI is I kind of went into it thinking I had to display the ROI as the leader of the organization within IT, and I've kind of turned that around to say, I'm really working on behalf of the business, and it really becomes incumbent that the business has to step up, right, and help us identify that. We've been fairly successful the last month or two in really getting our businesses to commit that yes, as we're moving along this path of implementing modules and processes within the Appian BPM platform, our business leaders are standing up saying, yes, this is going to have significant impact on my business. For us, it's really, we're a very manual organization. So much of what we're seeing is the automation of processes And the reduction, our goal at the end of this is really to be reducing the number of people that we're hiring. We're hiring about 150 to 175 people per year right now, the last 3 years running. And so what we've done is we said the ROI for us is going to come when we automate tasks and we can slow the growth of the hiring down. We've got commitment this year that across several of our business units, they believe there's somewhere between 25 and 30 FTEs that we will cost avoid hiring. So we're not letting people go, we're not laying people off, but we're trying to slow down the growth of hiring as the business continues to scale. Looking on the roadmap that we've put together, we're somewhere in the 55 to 60 headcount avoidance for 2017, and we think we can hit 80 people cost avoidance with full implementation by the end of 2018. Now, those become a little fuzzy math as you explain that to your board at times, but we've got the business team committed to saying we stand by and we're the ones believing and putting those numbers out there. So we've been successful as of late in getting to a form of ROI.
So you threw out some very interesting numbers. Can you describe a little bit of the growth in user count using Appian? Since you began your implementation, what does that growth look like? And is that giving you management exposure to the use of Appian in the organization?
Yeah, so we went into as we signed the contract with Appian back fall of last year, we had big aspirations. So Walmart is one of our largest customers and kind of felt like, wow, we think that we can really, this biggest significant savings, the biggest ROI you're going to have is on the big rocks. So our goal was we're going to implement Walmart right from the get-go. We kind of got talked out of that by the business and said, well, Sam's Club also works with us, a little smaller. Let's test and learn along there. We did that and quickly moved into into the Walmart piece. Started out with about 35 users in I'll call it a pilot case. And we just had to buy, our account rep is here, we just bought some new licenses about a month ago. So we're somewhere in that 200 range now of users rolled out. We think complete rollout is somewhere in the 400 seat area over the next year or so.
So within a year from 20 to 35 users up to 200
yes.
Running Appian processes.
Yep.
So I'll ask, just throw it out to anyone on the panel. Were there any things that you saw that gave that key way to demonstrate Appian to the organization? Was there something that you did uniquely that thought, hey, this is something that's going to be visible that I can use to share how Appian's going to work? Was there anything that you did early on, perhaps?
Well, for us, I mean, we did a lot of proof of concepts. We figured out where we had problems. We addressed those problems very quickly, and we were able to demonstrate that. So that was part of that. From an ROI perspective, I mean, if you're talking about formal ROI with, this percentage or whatever, these numbers, we didn't have that. We had transparency, right? So for us, it was about what's going on, and we didn't have that before. We managed a lot of our business based on spreadsheets. What's the status of this? What's the status of that? We had to aggregate a bunch of things to figure out, quarterly what's going on with our business. We didn't have that worry after that. We basically have one system, everyone's using it, you could see what's going on, project-wise, priority-wise, what's going on with our vendors, that sort of thing. So,
okay.
Yeah,
Charles?
I mean, I would add, having an audit trail and being able to track how processes work. We have a few very short-lived daily processes, high volume, where, it's relatively easy to have a track record, and then others that are more complicated. I think my organization, I'm not able to demonstrate an ROI in the mathematical sense, but what to me was proof that, we had a return on investment was when other colleagues and business units that didn't use Appian came to me and said, I see that my colleague is using Appian for this or that daily or monthly process. Can I get the same? I do something completely different. I might do mine, less frequently and it's more complex or vice versa, but I want to use this. Is it possible to build something? So that to me was a clear demonstration of a return on investment, and that's how we've addressed it and rolled out new things.
Excellent. Moving on, question 3 that we have here, process selection. Anybody who now has been at Appian World, you've seen so much opportunity and ways in which you can use Appian in your organization. It's often difficult to understand, where do I start? And once I have something, I've gotten the management buy-in and I've gotten users that are excited, how do I prioritize what to do next? Because everything looks like an opportunity. So I'm going to ask some of our panelists how they prioritize work once you've got something up and running in Appian. What keeps your users engaged? What makes sure that they're involved? And then depth of backlog. How big do you let it get? And where do you spend your time? Are you spending your time on new enhancements, futuristic things, or are you kind of working on enhancing those existing processes that you know you need to clean up? And I'm going to start with Amy again in terms of, can you share with us techniques you use internally to prioritize work within Appian?
Absolutely. So when we implement a new process, we have committed to each one of our process owners that we're going to get MVP out there, minimum viable product, maybe a little bit better than minimum viable product out, and then request a bake-in period. We request that the business owner says, hey, I've got to have that perfect, every little thing has to be perfect about the application. And they make all these enhancement requests when you're getting ready to roll into production, and we say, you know what? Those aren't required functionality for you to release this. Go use it, 60 to 90 days, we're going to revisit this. So it allows them to realize that that extra feature that they had to have wasn't as critical as they thought it was, and also to give us enhancements that they didn't realize during the development cycle that they really would like to have.
So in doing that process, what percentage of the time do you have to go back and do major rewrites? Because you're putting functionality out there that is minimally viable. How well is that working, and do you have to go back and do rework, or is it sticking once you get the MVP out there?
You know what? So far it's been sticking, which is really, really nice to say. Our processes have been not huge so far. We've had to enhance them. We went with MVP. We ended up doing some processes without integration to start. And then we come back and add integrations afterwards. And that has been also successful because the process itself might not be worked out quite perfectly to do the integration to start. So most of the time, we're doing small enhancements. It is less than a sprint worth of work. We usually end up making a sprint worth, a whole program level instead of a specific process item. And then most of our work this year is related to new processes.
Okay, so I'll ask any of our other panelists, have you seen some of the same thing? Did you think MVP was going to be maybe a concern of bringing something to production that wasn't 100% developed? And do you have experiences to suggest that minimally viable products in Appian are actually working in the organization, you're able to build off of it?
I'll jump in here. We're always concerned that what we're delivering is not quite complete. So we've tried to iterate through our processes and continually to improve those, get feedback and continually to improve those. We also do frequent maintenance releases, so for things that are small or issues, we can deliver those relatively quickly. But we have multiple phases. We work with our customers to sort of walk through what we're about to deliver, get feedback. Sometimes that pushes the timeline out a little bit for delivery, sometimes it doesn't, and we basically address that second iteration, third iteration, or whatever. So it's been successful. I mean, we consider Appian more of a way to do building blocks. We build a piece and then we continue to add to that piece, add another block, connect the pieces, that sort of thing. And that's worked well for us over the last 4 years. So,
had you had a similar experience with any other software, or was this something unique in the Appian world in that you were able to use that building block approach?
Well, I can't talk to the other, the other areas. I mean, for us, it's always been about Appian. I've never managed a bunch of development and applications. So it's pretty common for us. That's basically how we deliver things. So.
I would say for us at Triad, this is something new. That Appian gives us a building block playground per se. We have not had that before. We've built other applications, we've built other products, and that was much more of I'll call it a waterfall approach, where I don't want to see little bits of it. Give me the whole thing. I'm not willing to to take little chunks along the way. Appian has been our first really venture into these small, agile, small enhancement, small feature, building to a greater need.
All right, which leads right into the next question related to, methodology, because Appian is uniquely suited for Agile and Scrum methodologies to be able to bring something to your customers fast, bring something that is functionally rich, and have it in production and usable really fast. So John just gave tidbits of the first use at Triad for Agile Scrum methodologies was in fact with Appian. So John, have you been able to leverage any of those those techniques now in other areas of your organization after you've piloted using Appian?
Yeah, so yes to the question. Some successful, some not so successful. Our first, we knew the last 18 months or so that we needed to move more into an agile approach for our development of software. The Appian tool, along with the way we're doing offshore development, really lend itself to that very well. We've got a lot of work to do, though. This is a journey. We've done a lot of training internally, so our IT teams are all running, stand-ups, and they're all running Scrum, and they're all doing the epics and the stories and so forth. Where we're losing a little bit of the momentum is on the user side. So as we bring products, our users at some point are still really demanding that whatever goes into that 2-week sprint, when they go through the UAT testing, if they see that, wow, there's an error or something's misspelled, to them it's almost a showstopper. And so we've got to get, incumbent upon me and some other leaders of the business, we've got to continue that training and that education of our business users. We have enlisted a company locally in Tampa that does agile training. We've gone through a majority of the IT organization, and starting in end of May and in through June, they're not going to talk to IT anymore. They're going to go focus on the product team. They're going to go focus on the business teams, because we've got to get in lockstep for Agile and Scrum and everything to be successful. So it's worked very, very well for us in this product and this platform. We have struggled a little bit taking that knowledge and that environment into other applications across our enterprise.
Okay. And Bud, how do the faster cycle times work for you interacting with the business at Scripps? Are they amenable to that pace? Are they able to kind of keep things going in the organization?
I think I think basically that they're happy with the frequency that we're delivering, although everyone expects things sooner than later. But for the most part, we try to prioritize based on our roadmap, and that may push people back a little bit in that schedule, because we have processes that may impact a greater audience than just a few people. So they get it. I mean, it happens. We have a small team, so sometimes they have to wait longer than they want, but once they see the end result, once we provide the solution to them, they're happy with it. And then obviously from a maintenance perspective, maintenance sprints, we're trying to fix problems. If we do deliver something and there is an issue, we try to address it quickly. So it's those functional releases that take a little bit longer.
Okay. Amy or Charles, any insights in making an agile environment work within Appian?
Our business users are thrilled every 2 weeks to see the functionality. So they go through this whole requirements process, and we say, hey, what do you need? How do you need it? And you have the conversation. We do mock-ups in advance, so then they're sent off to the development team, and what they think they're going to get is what they get. But the whole cycle of having a demo and user acceptance testing, rigid user acceptance testing every 2 weeks, makes them own it. It's not this idea that they're eventually going to have to take ownership of. They really own it then. And the conversation regularly of what do you like, what don't you like, and their ability to articulate what things don't work the way they expected to becomes even more important because we can correct it.
So for somebody starting off implementing Appian, you're in a very mature stage in terms of your use of the tool. Would you have any advice as to how to make that environment that you have today possible faster? Or what would you do differently in thinking about bringing these faster cycles in to get engagement from your customers? Any tips or tricks?
Mine would be set expectations.
Okay.
Get them involved as fast as you can and do conference room pilot testing. I can't say enough good things about getting everybody in the room and testing together.
Right. And I think, John, you had some experience
I think
with
mine was training, and then the other piece I think somebody made mention in one of the earlier sessions was, for us, this Appian was kind of the first application because of the sheer, 100% agile environment that broke down cubicle walls. All right, so we've got our teams. We're bursting a little bit now. We've continued to add streams and developers, but we don't have them sitting on different floors. They're not sitting in cubicles. They're sitting in big rooms, sharing a center console table. And so that I think has done a couple really interesting things for the company. And I think as that continues, that momentum continues to build, I really see that this application is going to kind of, proliferate throughout our organization very quickly. So very positive.
Charles?
I'll just add, I don't know it yet, but I think we saw it yesterday, the quick apps and the ability, I expect my team members and people at our company to embrace that citizen developer or quick apps approach and take a first stab at something. We've been very successful at developing increased features and applications, and Vuram has helped us. And I think the balance of, I don't know what the balance of frustration between the user and Vuram's side has been, but with something like quick apps, I hope that our users will be able to take a first stab at something, put their expectations for an interface up on something and then reach out to an outside consultant and build on top of that. So I'm hopeful that that's...
And I can say from Vuram's perspective, we're excited by the opportunity to get that additional user engagement. If users are able to actually describe what they want within the tool, that's going to make it faster and easier for us to deliver ultimately the product that's going to work in production. So along those lines, so we have new methodologies that come with Appian that you're able to leverage. Let's talk a little on team structure. So every organization is a little bit different. You have skills within the organization, and I want to ask our panelists a little bit about how they've organized some of their people, and then in particular in either getting started or in a mature model, are there roles which have lent themselves to being outsourced versus those that are better off retained internally for their own individual success? So let's go, Bud. How is it worked out in terms of your internal team structure?
We've tried a few things. We've tried to include sort of the business analysts, and as part of our team. Traditionally, the business analysts tend to be very thorough, very method driven, and we are very much, hey, let's whiteboard something, take a picture, move on, because we have 2-week sprints, 3-week sprints. So that didn't kind of work for us, that formal BA role. We have a couple of process designers. Guys, raise your hand quick over here. And a PM, raise your hand quick. As we move forward, that seems to be working well with us. We've obviously engaged Vuram for a couple of resources as well. We do scrums every day, and that seems to be working really well. Very small teams, setting the priority every day. As far as, what I've learned from that, our teams tend to do a lot of the testing themselves, so I would love to have, sort of a more formal process around testing, and then, a sort of a traditional UAT. And we engage our users, and they are actively involved, but they have jobs too. We're building processes for them, but they're living their job or doing their job. So I think what we have works.
Excellent. John, any key lessons in staffing organizations, things that you've learned from starting to your point of the maturity scale now?
Yeah, so we have a little different structure. So we believe that the best knowledge of how to change processes and document and automate things are within our building. So we've enlisted our business analysts, our project managers. We've actually brought some of the business people kind of into our team. So we've created an environment where project manager, business analyst, and subject matter expert from the business all kind of sit together. And then what we've done is to keep the speed and the agility going, we've outsourced the entire application development arm. So I don't have any developers per se on my team right now. We've outsourced that, but we believe that's the best way to keep kind of the factory going by our team's really focused on redoing the processes, redoing the tasks, automating the features, providing the user stories and the epics, and then we hand those off to an offshore team. For us, it's worked very well. We're at a point now where we've got 4 or 5 fairly large processes in place. So over the, probably the rest of this year, we're going to start bringing some of that development in-house to do maintenance and support. But we believe we've got a really good, pace, a good cadence. We're running 3 separate teams simultaneously right now. And that model of BA, subject matter expert, business person, project manager, internally feeding an offshore development team has worked extremely well for us.
Charles, Amy, any lessons you might impart to people in the audience?
I think we've slightly or vaguely similar process in the sense that, development is handled by Vuram offshore. What the challenge has been for us, we're, as I said before, a much smaller organization, fewer people, is that handoff, right? And the locking down what the specification, the expectation, and so forth is. That's where I think, doing simple processes and simple applications has helped us. But now we're at a point where I think a little bit more rigor, a little bit more data governance, or whatever you want to call it, is what I expect. That'll allow us to sort of take the next step or next phase.
Yeah, we're probably an area we've got to focus a little more. Is some of the what's that handoff look like as you grow the enterprise, and then we've got some work on data governance as we continue to roll out, but. Stuff that's definitely on the roadmap, but it is working well. Okay,
excellent. So question 6 comes into change management and resolving resistance to change. Organizationally, it's always a challenge to do something different, to do something new, and anybody who's going to be implementing an Appian solution is going to face that, whether it's sort of something brand new, a new person into the organization, or a new process that you're going to change. Any tips or tricks that you can advise our audience members on how to make that change go better, or what helps you get your users to get on the bandwagon? Amy?
We didn't only engage our process owners, but we encouraged them to include real heavy users of whatever process it was. So it might be the finance team, it might be the change managers inside of our technology organization, depending on the process. We had the people that were going to need to take on the change become part of the implementation. So they conducted user acceptance testing. They felt enabled to provide feedback. And they became our change agents because they became excited about the opportunity of using something better than what they had today.
So how did you overcome the people that you want, who you want to engage because you know the business. How do you overcome that? My boss won't let me participate. I don't have time. I have other responsibilities. I can't do that. So sorry, Amy. How do you overcome those?
It's relationships. For us, it was all about relationships. We went and talked to those resources and said, hey, the process is changing. We would love for you to provide the feedback. And suddenly those resources and their managers wanted to be part of the change.
So leveraging knowledge of the business, existing relationships, and knowing that you're a change agent that has to move them along and letting them figure out that they're either going to be a part of it or perhaps left behind, which you definitely don't want in an organization. Bud?
I consider Appian sort of a disruptive technology, and people are resistant to change. And what we had to do was we had to sell it within the organization, and we had a lot of meetings, have probably 6 or 8 decks that are 50 slides each that we constantly just kept giving the message out. This is what we're doing. This is the direction we're going. Lessons, lunch and learns, getting people to attend a meeting by bribing them with food and that sort of thing, and just constantly just saying this is the direction we're going and this will solve your problem, and basically demo and show them the capabilities. And a lot of people understand their process. You basically say, not only can we do that, but we can do this. and the light bulb goes off in a lot of cases.
So you pulled out all the stops.
Yeah,
Bribing
whatever
with
we
food,
could do.
repetition, training materials, written materials, distribution of them,
bribery,
demos.
yeah.
Absolutely. Rebribe with food again.
Yep.
Drinks if possible. But now, did it work? Did you get those people on board? And are some of those early ones there? They are there.
We did. I mean, it took a bit, but again, we've been there 4 years. We started with 100 seats. We went to 350 seats, and now we're at 2,500 seats. So it took a while, but it's just that constant. Hey, this is how it's going to help you, right? It's about helping our users. It's about repetitive and repetitive process and transparency, and people get it, but it takes a little bit. So.
Okay, excellent. So everybody starts a BPM program, and they've got certain defined things that they want to get done, but sometimes you get unexpected benefits. So we've got a few more minutes left, so I want to ask for anyone on the panel, what was the most unexpected benefit that came out of your Appian implementation? What was the surprise? What was the aha? Or what was the unique thing that ended up on a screen that you said, wow, that's really neat. I didn't realize we were going to get that. Any examples like that from your implementations?
Mobile. I mean, without a doubt, mobile and the adoption of mobile. I think that was not, if you're trying to enhance a control framework, we had the choice, go with paper and pencil or Excel spreadsheets or do BPM, but the sort of added bonus of being able to do mobile on your device, I think that was, people loved it, they adopted it, and it helped, I would say it actually helped them people also using Appian on Internet Explorer or whatever, at their desk. So that was an eye-opener for us.
And I know I heard this in one of the keynotes today, that even if Appian is available on the desktop, when you build a mobile interface, you actually change the look and feel of the app to make it easier. You have to simplify the app, and so you're seeing even use of mobile at people's desktop. Very interesting.
We saw our leadership team use the application, and I know that sounds really funny, but you have a leadership team that usually delegates to their admin to do various different workflows. Approval of timesheets, approval of expense reports, those types of things. So every process owner says, oh, you're never going to get the CFO or the CEO to actually approve things. Well, not only do they approve them in Appian, but they approve them almost immediately. So all of a sudden, things start moving faster.
Excellent, thank you. And with this, it looks like we're out of time, so we're not going to get to our last question, but I think we can go into question and answer, and if we have any questions in the audience for any of our panelists, we'd be happy to take them. Anything that you have that you want to understand about their implementations, I think will be able to be available afterwards as well. But any questions? Okay, with that, thank you all very much, and thank you to all of our panelists for being up here on the stage.